What's up, Holloway gang? Welcome back to episode 2 of the Let Me Holla at You podcast. We are the Holloways. I'm one of your hosts, your boy Trey, and this is my beautiful wife,
Katya.
And together, of course, we make up the Holloways. We want to welcome you back here for episode 2. And before we get too far into it, I want to thank all of you that tuned in to our first episode, who gave us a listen, who gave us a view, anything like that, or just interacted with our video. We appreciate it, and we want to ask you to just continue to feel comfortable to do that because you are family to us, and we in this thing together. Now, before I get too carried away, come here real quick. Come here a little close. Let me tell you something. Let me holla at you.
So to start off our podcast episode today, we wanted to go ahead and jump into a story. So at the beginning of all of our episodes from here on out, we want to go ahead and start off with a little story. We found this one today from Reddit, but in the future, we'd also love to hear your stories. So if you have a story or a situation that you want us to comment on, react to, or whatever the case may be, please feel free to DM us, email us, comment the whole thing if you really want to. But we would love to hear from you. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into the story today. So this is, from Reddit, from the thread, Am I the Asshole?
Ooh,
so, yes.
Yeah, you the asshole. So, sorry to interrupt, but if you got to ask the question, am I the asshole?
Okay.
You probably the asshole.
No, because sometimes we just be really looking for validation, let's be real. But anyway, so...
We're going to find out. We're going to find out.
So, this is from user ZealousIdealAd1550. The title is, Am I the Asshole for Making My Boyfriend Return My Christmas Gift? Off rip, what do you think, yes or no?
So, just hearing that... I can't get too in... everybody got different viewpoints, but if I take the time out of my day to get you a thoughtful gift for Christmas, I expect you to appreciate it.
I would too. I'll give you that.
So we're gonna see what
let's get into
happens.
the tea.
Yeah, maybe it was some. Yeah, we're gonna see what happens.
Okay, so user says, me, 20 female, and my boyfriend, 19 male, have been dating for a few months now. I was really excited for Christmas as it would be our first as a couple. I went all out on his gifts and I did heavy research on things he would like. In the end, my gifts for him totaled to around $80. I kept on asking him what he was going to get me, but he would keep quiet. She said, which made me very excited. Okay, this is a Katya edit right here. Keeping quiet is not a good sign, but in my opinion. Anyway, it said it made her very excited. All right, back to the story. However, on Christmas Day, I got nothing, and he explained he ordered the gift late, but that it would be a plushie. I love plushies. Girl, me too! Okay, we'll get into that later. That's technically not a plushie.
I'm going to save mine to after the story.
sorry. Technically not a plushie, technically a squash ball. But anyway, back to the story. I'm so sorry, everybody. She says, I love plushies and was very excited as I had mentioned for months what plushies I really wanted to get. That's cute. Yet my excitement died off a few days later when I found out it was a $10 and extremely, she put in parentheses, and I mean extremely, small plush that I had never mentioned any interest in. I felt very upset and I told him to return it. He got mad at me for not being grateful, but I just felt so hurt over the fact that it was 1, cheap, 2, not as well thought out as my Christmas gifts felt, and 3, many days later after Christmas. Edit, we have been dating for 8 months if that helps. Also, he is not in any sort of financial burden whatsoever. He regularly spends money on clothes and food. Also, days before Christmas Day, I heavily hinted at the gifts I was getting him. Then there's a second edit. I guess a lot of people really commented on this one. When I say I made him return the gift, I mean that I made him return the gift that he got me, as in the plush. I never asked him to return the gifts I got him. Additionally, when I kept asking what he was going to get, I wasn't trying to gauge anything. I just get overly excited during the holidays. So, that being said, before I share my opinion on this, what is yours? And then I can read some of the top comments.
Okay, so I have a few points on this. Try to stay with me. Now, I do feel like there is a sense or there's a such thing as creating false expectations. Now, there were a couple points that, she made that I felt like for you to include that information, it very much sounds like you were expecting a gift in a certain caliber or in a certain category.
Yeah.
Not going to say a price point. I mean, a lot of us are, or a lot of people are very, very specific about not including a certain price when they, are talking about gifts, especially early in a relationship, because you guys haven't even been together a year. So I do want to give the credit that it is a very young relationship, and I do think that based off this misunderstanding, it will open you up to have other conversations as a couple to where you will understand how to navigate the situation moving forward. Now, my PSA on men. We can be done, all right? I've known my wife for a long time. She's a great gift giver. She loves giving gifts, and she's very thoughtful about it. Like, you can talk about something 5 years ago and have mentioned it, and she's going to type it down in a list, and she's going to remember it, and then 5 years later, going to buy you that gift, and you're not even going to remember the conversation that you had about that, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is the most thoughtful thing I've ever received.
Notes app.
So, me, on the other hand, I suck at giving gifts. And I think a lot of that comes from my whole life is kind of been a struggle for me to get comfortable enough to have the financial comfortability to be able to express myself through gifts. Of course, over the years, I've done a couple things right, but I have made some mistakes within that. So I do think there is a learning curve, especially in a relationship, on learning what your partner likes and how to please them in a certain aspect. Now, let's get to the question. Are you the asshole for making your man return the gift that he got you? Off rip, I would say yes, because I do feel like that you created like you said, you mentioned he is not hurting for money. You even kept tabs on how often he purchases clothes and shoes and things of that nature. Now, knowing what I do know about, I was raised by 3 strong women, and knowing what I do know about women, there is nothing that a woman does that is unintentional. So if she purposely included that information and purposely noticed these things, that means Shawty was expecting bro to go and get in that bag a little bit and get her a really nice gift.
Let me go ahead and dip into some of these top comments because I feel like some of them do already have my opinion already mixed in there. Mm-hmm. So for example, there's this comment from Chicago White Sox 35. It says, not the asshole. So he's a terrible gift giver and he's also cheap and he leaves things to the last minute as well. You'll need to decide if these are things that you can deal with long term. These are a bunch of red flags in my book. And there's a bunch of people that agreed with it. And I will say that I feel like that's a little bit of a reach because I hate to say give men the benefit of the doubt a little bit because I'm going to be very real. I sometimes don't because I'm like, if you wanted to, you would, or, actions speak louder than words. That's the kind of person I am. But at the same time, knowing how men are, it's like, did you have a conversation? I totally agree. Did you have a conversation about price points for gifts? Did you have a conversation about like the kind of things that you'd expect for gifts on holidays and birthdays and whatever, you know what I mean? Or also though, she was trying to hint at it. And that hinting at it and the always bringing it up and I got these really great gifts for you. And I get that too because sometimes women are hinting at something, other times they're excited. And I think hers was maybe a little bit of both, trying to like gauge his reaction. Because she did say like, he would get really quiet, which again to me was a red flag, or like not a red flag like as a person, but I mean red flag as in I don't think he's on the same page as you because most men don't get quiet unless they're like not feeling what you're feeling. You know what I mean?
Right, and not to cut you off too.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
That's what I'm also getting into about dang it, I lost the word that I was going for. But that's when I really want to talk about like perception and really like getting to know your partner because again. He may come from, and we don't know him specifically, we don't know the work that he does, if he is working all the time, what his day-to-day is. He could come from a household that does not value in the sense of giving gifts in that way. Mm-hmm. As long as it's something tangible that you said you wanted, something super expensive or buying a gift that's really expensive may not be something that he aligns with, which could be why he went so silent when these conversations were had. Yeah. But also, I do want to make a PSA. Couples out here ain't just sitting down talking about Christmas gifts, all right? I think this is very much a situational conversation that took place. I'm saying if you just and again, I'm not condoning the gift being late. There's nothing that you can say to condone that. Like, there's no reason why she should have got that small of a gift after Christmas. Like, come on, my dog. Like, you could have gave it to her on Christmas, and maybe it would not have been as bad.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think he ordered it like literally right before Christmas.
Probably
or, like,
last
the day
minute.
of
And
or
again,
something,
like they're
crazy.
shipping things. It's around Christmas time, and they'll tell them where he ordered the plush from.
Even
like,
Amazon, you could get literally Christmas gifts
yeah.
the day before.
But we talk about this. Y'all know I'm grayscale.
Anyway.
I'm gonna try to find out all the ways around it.
No
but I do think it just depends on really understanding your other partner. I say we are missing a lot of context to fully make a judgment point on who's the asshole or not. But I'm thinking if you just snapped when you saw this gift and said, you need to take that back to the store, that ain't it, without having the conversation of the expectations, explaining to you, like the hinting, how you hinted to her, like, remember when I said such and such? Remember when I said such and such? Mm-hmm. Like, and again, I almost dumb it down for him. Because again, I'm telling you,
men are
I support my brothers, you know what I'm saying?
Respectfully.
All shapes, sizes, and races. But, man, we can be a little bit on the slow side, especially when it comes to understanding our partners emotionally.
I will say, I'm with you 100%. I don't think there was really any thought put into that. Like, he got you a plushie, days late, really small, really... I get it, girl. I'm with you. And I would have been mad, too.
That he's wrong for.
Yes. But I will say, have the conversation with him first.
Yeah.
If he doesn't understand where you're coming from in the conversation, that's when you really need to have a deeper one of, okay, well, I don't know if this will work out if you want to deal with it long term, right?
This, again, big or small, depending on who's thinking about it. Mm-hmm. Don't let a situation like this derail your relationship. Use it to better the relationship and to grow and learn more about each other and have more open conversations so that you can appeal to each other and love each other in the way that the other wants to receive love.
And so, last little bit, the thread, or I guess the am I the asshole thread, the consensus and final answer to this was deemed not the asshole. So, majority of people said that she was not the asshole, and therefore, you're not the asshole.
I can definitely see that point, because I'm 50-50 on it. So, shout out Reddit.
Right. All right, y'all. Now it's time to actually go ahead and dive into our topic of the day. The topic for this episode is going to be interracial relationships or interracial dating. I know it's I don't want to say a tough one, but a tough one to just go on and take head on for our first full episode with all the deets. You know what I mean? Yes. All the depth. But I just wanted to go ahead and kind of share, I think, our different experiences. So I am from the Central Florida, Orlando area, and you are?
I'm from the Atlanta, Georgia area-ish, about like 40 minutes south.
Yeah, so area-ishes. But anyway, so we have had actually very different experiences growing up, I would say. And a lot of our different viewpoints kind of came from that because of just the different places that we grew up. So for me, I'll go ahead and touch on mine, try and make a long story short. We all know I'm not good at it, but I'm going to try. So I obviously grew up in the Orlando, kind of Central Florida area, right? For me, and I don't want to say this was just, my community, but overall in the community, I didn't notice any, like, divisions in a race. I'm not saying they didn't exist or weren't there. I would be ignorant to say that, you know what I'm saying? But overall, it was not a topic of conversation. And, I mean, I grew up and all of my friends were all very mixed. Especially, like, people say the U.S. is a melting pot, but I don't fully agree. Like, we are a melting pot, but depending on what areas you go, it's not always a melting pot. Right. Orlando or the Central Florida area is a melting pot. You know what I'm saying? So, like, you have people from every sort of nationality, every continent besides Antarctica, okay? Like, you have all kinds of people, and within these groups of people, you have all these kind of groups or subcultures and groups of people. And so for me, I didn't make friends off of, there's another white person, you know what I mean? Or they look like me. Like, I didn't make friends like that at all. I didn't talk to people for that reason. Like, I literally made friends in school because we got along, you know what I mean? So my friend group, personally for me, was always very diverse. So I think I literally had, like, maybe one or two white friends growing up out of all of them, which, and I'm talking about out of my entire group, I think I had, like, maybe, like, one or two stable, like, growing up. And then all of my other ones that were compromised of everybody. So, I mean, I had black friends, Asian friends, Hispanic friends, Indian, like, literally I had all kinds of friends, and I'll hop off that, like, but that's what I'm trying to get at, is I've literally had every kind of nationality almost covered within my own friend group. And then obviously, yes, I'm white, but I also am Polish American, you know what I'm saying, kind of have those roots or whatever. And that obviously went into how I was raised as well. So, that being said, I did not have any preconceived like notions when it came to interracial dating. I mean, everyone did it because everyone didn't care. Again, it was, I don't want to harp on this, but no one cared. When I was growing up and I went to the grocery store, I saw interracial couples all the time, and I'm not just talking about white and black. I'm talking about like all the cultures and every race. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, everyone was dating everyone because we just don't care. Like, you are who you love, and that's that. Moving along, like no one bats an eye. Like, you know what I mean? And so for me, I personally had a culture shock when I moved to Georgia for school. I am not at all even embarrassed to say this. I literally called my mom and cried after my first week here because I was like, Mom, there's literally 2 types of people here and I don't fit in with any of them, and like they don't go on the other sides. I'm not talking about just race. Like, there's literally like, for me, like, people say, oh, well, we have other races here, we have other nationalities. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, majority of the population in Georgia, from what I've noticed, and again, I'm not some scientist or population expert anyway, is white and black. It's like very 50-50. You don't have a lot of in-betweens. And so for me, that was very different off rip because I'm used to seeing everything and being around everything. With that, also, I feel like there's a lot of kind of stipulations almost with each group. Like, I feel like there's middlemans here or middlemen here, and you know what I'm saying, like, that kind of fit in between, but they're fewer to kind of come by, you know what I mean? Like, and so I feel like you very much fit into your little subgroup, and you stayed within your little subgroup, and there's not a lot of middlemen, you know what I mean? And a lot of people like to say, oh, well, it's not true, but I'm like, but it is, because again, from someone who literally grew up where we all were middlemen, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, this is very different for me. And so it was hard for me to even come here and fit in because I didn't care what you looked like. I didn't care what you did. I cared about your morals. That was pretty much it, you know. Are you a good person? Great. Do you like the kind of things that I like? Yeah, let's be friends. But, like, that's not really how it kind of came across here. Like, I feel like people always kind of thought twice about what you looked like or the kind of crowd you were in before becoming friends or dating or whatever. Now, that being said, that's kind of my experience is when I came to school especially, and when we started talking, I didn't think anything of it. I was like, yeah, this is great. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I liked you for you, and that was it. But I've never had so many people not question me, but, like, kind of say, like, hey, you know, you're going to have to deal with, you know, people that might not like y'all being together. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, what? You know what I mean? Like, it was very confusing to me. And I will say that I was, and I'm the first one to say this, I was very ignorant to some things that apparently still happen in this world that I did not know still happened in this world today. Because, again, I grew up in, I don't even say a sheltered community, but sheltered in terms of the fact that, like, again, like, people weren't judging people off of their race first. You know what I mean? Like, they were judging you off of your resume and what you had to bring to the table, basically, not what you looked like. So for me, that's just kind of where you know what I'm saying? It's very much different because I came here and people are like, well, you know, people aren't going to like you guys together. And it's a whole thing of they're judging you off of what you look like and literally just off of your race. Not even like, are you put together? I'm talking about like, okay, you're black and you're white and you're together. This is a problem. Like, that's so stupid and weird to me. And I was just ignorant to the fact that these kind of things still happened in the freaking 20th century. So anyway, I'll hop off now, but that's kind of where I grew up, and we didn't care, and it was whatever. But let's go ahead and go to you. What was your experience kind of around interracial couples, or did you have any experience around them? And, you know, you are from Atlanta, so you are still in what I call, like, the typical South, but you also are in, like, the northern part of the South. So it's more metropolitan with being Atlanta. So anyway, how was your experience kind of with interracial couples?
So for me in particular, it's very hard to speak on, especially where I grew up, mostly, and for me, like, my most growing up years were probably 10 to 16 is when I really started to figure out and kind of realize how the world was shaped. So it's hard for me to kind of judge, like, based off of a group of people, but I'll just speak on my experiences because that's, to me, what's kind of shaped my thinking on it. So being where I'm from where I'm really born and raised, which is a small town, you know, probably top 10 worst cities to live in Georgia, literally on the list. Very small. Everybody where I grew up going to elementary school looked like me. I can almost guarantee you. More than any other race, we all look the same. And so I had a lot of issues growing up in that part of town and being who I was and who I was being raised to be and my personality. I had a hard time fitting in with a lot of people in that crowd. My own race, you know, I'm being honest. Like I had a hard time fitting in. I could not really find friends that we align in the same thinking on things. I felt like an outcast all the time. And because of those things, I feel like I didn't really care about school, so my grades were terrible. I got in trouble all the time. Which a lot of my friends now, a lot of people who know me, who've known me as I grew up, were probably like, what? Like, that doesn't even sound like Trey at all.
I don't know.
But that's very much who I was in that environment. And so I think growing up like that and feeling like I didn't fit in with my own group. And literally, I felt like at every opportunity that I tried to make friends or I tried to fit in somewhere, they would take any opportunity to let me know that I was not one of them or I did not fit into that group. And so I'm not going to lie, it did kind of shape my thinking in that, especially I'm very young at this time. And so me getting in trouble and all that, it's really just like a cry for help. Like I really just feel like I don't know who I am, what I'm doing, where I'm going. So of course my mom being who she was, shout out to my mom. I really would say I was raised by 3 single strong black women. They shaped literally who I am and how I think. And so shout out to them. I love you all. Love you guys so much. She moved me literally 10, 15 minutes down the road to another town, and I think I started kindergarten, I'm going to skip past that because I had kindergarten in that area, then I moved back to that city that I came from, but we're going to move ahead down to elementary. And so when my mom moved me there, that's when I finally went to a school where there were so many different types of people and different types of races and different viewpoints. And so I went to that school, and on day one, I immediately made 2 friends. One same race as me, another one a different race, one male, one female, and like then it became 2 girls and 3 girls. I started making straight A's, and my friend group was very much mixed throughout from that point on. Like I aligned with people who thought the same way I did, who I felt like I related to, and people that gravitated towards me the same way that I gravitated towards them. I'm a big energy person, and I know that now about myself that I'm older. I didn't know that when I was younger, so I literally gravitate to a specific type of energy. And so I think all of those experiences shaped how I feel and what I think about interracial relationships. So honestly, it's the person. It has nothing to do, in my opinion, with the skin color, the culture, what you do when you go home, what your parents do when they go. To me, those things weren't necessary to me because I've had friends that their parents very much gave you the vibe of, oh, they ain't messing with me too much, or they don't like me being around here too much. But their children were not like that. You know, they never even around their parents, they never treated me like that. They always treated me like they knew me from day one, like we were all best friends. And so I really grew up, and I say this honestly, I didn't see color. I saw vibe. So, and so that's very much what I feel like. I feel like in an interracial couple, those that agree with you and that are feeling the energy and the aura off of the couple will align with you being the people that you are and being together. And those that can't see that far or don't care to see that far, either they will or they won't, and that's just up to them. I feel like, honestly, to live in this world and think that everybody's going to accept your situation and who you are and who you choose to be with, like, that's foolish. It can be a white and white couple, black and black, whatever. Like, y'all can be the exact same person, looking like whatever. Somebody's still gonna have something to say. So I think at the end of the day, like, instead of putting that emphasis on like race and culture, which again we're gonna talk about it because society does that, I focus more so on just getting to know people. And so my family, my mom never ever once when I was growing up made a big deal about the type of person that I would be with or what color they would be. Or any of that. My mom never said anything about that. My first girlfriend actually was my first actual real relationship was an interracial relationship. And I feel like my parents and my family were very, very open to that. Of course, there were certain conversations that we had to have. My mom was very big on teaching. And so at any point, she did not want us to go through anything in life and not be able to navigate our way through it or not understand the world. So I learned a lot through others' experiences, stories that my mom told me, my grandparents told me, and I think that's an important thing to point out, because a lot of times we shut off our brains and our ears when our parents are talking. But yeah, that may sound dumb to you right now, but when you get older, a situation may present itself in the same exact way in the story that your mom was telling you, and you didn't really realize that your mom just taught you a life lesson on how to navigate that issue because you weren't paying attention. So it does help to listen and actually pay attention, because you just don't know what you're going to encounter when you grow older. It may not make sense to you right now,
Shout
but
out,
it
moms.
may make
We're
sense
paying attention.
later in life. So just shout out to your parents. Just take a second and listen to them. Like, it doesn't all need to go on one or not the other. Like, yes, did I struggle a lot with identity growing up? Yes, I still struggle with identity a lot to this day. And being a black man in an interracial relationship, do I feel like I get judged as a black man being with a white woman? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, all the time. Like, there's certain people that don't even look at me when I talk to them.
And I do
you know
too,
what I'm saying?
yeah.
Or there's some people that can't take their eyes off us when you walk in the grocery store. They watch us everywhere that we go.
Oh my gosh,
we're
hold on.
laughing
Can
and
we tell
joking,
this
and they're like,
story?
why are they having so much fun? Are we not supposed to get along with each other and like each other and have jokes and enjoy shopping? Like, I don't understand, like, why. And that, honestly, I did not start having experiences like that till I came down.
Yes, to the south.
To where we are, to the south.
Can we
Or
say
more,
that?
further down south, I'll say.
Can I tell a really short story real quick? Because you said people looking at you. So, fun fact, or not even fun fact, this is not fun at all. We went into the mall one day, and this was, I think we were, I don't know, a couple years into dating. We literally walked into the mall here to go get food. Like, that's all we were doing. We were dressed kind of bummy, but we weren't in pajamas or something. Like, we were just like regular, just like comfy clothes. And we literally walk in. The food at this mall, the food is in the front of the mall. Like, you walk in the main entrance, the food's all right there. So you didn't have to go like into the mall. Mm-hmm. We literally walked into the mall to get food. Do you remember that one time at American Deli? So shout out American Deli. And we walked in and literally to get food. We ordered and everything, but from the moment we walked in the door, all eyes were just staring at us. White, black, young, old. Everybody was just looking at us. Like, it was eerily uncomfortable.
A lot of times there's this thing, I can't remember what the word is, but there's this thing where you're sitting in a room and it's a bunch of people, and for whatever reason you feel like everybody's staring at you, everybody's looking at you. Mm-hmm. I've always gotten that feeling my whole life. And then when I found out there was a word for it, and that was actually a feeling, I was like, okay, so I'm not crazy. People aren't staring at me. Nobody cares what I'm doing. I'm just perceiving it that way. So we're in this, and again, I have to take your story. We're in there, and like, I'm feeling it, and that's when she leaned over. She's like, "Do you feel like everybody's staring at us?"
Oh yeah, at this point we don't.
When she said that, and in my mind, I'm thinking, I was like, "Okay, yeah, these motherfuckers really looking at us crazy." Like,
because I'm actually the opposite. I mean, you could literally actually be staring at me like this the whole freaking time, but I'm either not going to care, or if I get bothered, be like, "You got a problem? You have something to say?" Like, I'm not afraid of confrontation. A lot of people like confrontation. You guys will know this about me. I do not care. I will confront you on it if you're acting any kind of way. I'm not the kind of person that just feels eyes on me all the time. You know, I just don't have that. I won't say anxiety. It's not like anxiety, but you know what I'm saying. That kind of anxiety. Like, I don't have that usually. I just don't care. So when we were in the mall, we had just ordered, and I literally leaned over at him because at this point I was getting so uncomfortable, and that is so out of character for me to be this uncomfortable. And I was like, you feel like everyone's like staring at us, or is it just me? And then I don't remember what she said, but I think you were kind of like, outside. You know what I mean? Kind of like, not like brushing me off, but kind of like, hey, I have something to say outside. And so I was like, okay. And so we got our food or whatever after, like, it was literally like maybe 5 minutes. Felt like 30. It was long as like 5 minutes of our life. Right. And again, we walk 400 feet outside because it was right there. And then I finally just felt like I could breathe again. Like, it was so weird. I was like,
there's like an energy. You felt the energy.
Yeah, it was an energy shift. I was like, what was that? And I was like, what was that? And he was like, I do not know. But he's like, I'm so glad you realized it too. And then we like sat there and like sat in the car and just digested it. Like, and just sat there and we're trying to think of, okay, did I have something on my face? Did I look weird? You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a freaking hole in my pants or something. Like, we were sitting there trying to figure out what was going on. And long story short, we kind of got to the fact of, okay, we were the only interracial couple in there. We walked in there holding hands. And besides that, we didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I think we're cute, but we ain't that good looking.
Right.
Like, we're not celebrities, so what are you staring at us for? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
But anyway, that's just a little short story. Do you want to go ahead and get into the poll?
Let's do it.
All right. So, that being said, kind of a little intro onto our views on interracial relationships. Kind of hashtag we don't care, we love each other. Anyway.
Right. Love who you're going to love and don't care who got anything.
That part, right? We asked all of you guys, well, for everyone that's new here, sorry, we asked our listeners who already kind of have listened, a poll on our social media pages. That poll was, or the question was, what's the biggest misconception about interracial relationships? And Mr. Trey over here, my co-host, my lovely husband, actually doesn't know how these lined up either, like who answered what. So, are you ready for these, for the answers, for the
Yes.
data?
What does the data say?
So, I mathed it all out, right? So, 27% of people said cultural differences make them too hard. That was one of the responses, was that cultural differences make them too hard. That was 27%. Another 27% said they're not that different from same-race relationships. Thank you. And then a whopping 45% said family and friends never approve.
We ain't even get into that tidbit all the way.
I was about to say, so we're going to have to touch on that because, first of all, I want to kind of just start on, like, we already kind of went into that they're not that different from same-race relationships because, let's be real, they're not. Like, you need good morals that match up. You need communication. You got to find each other cute. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is all stuff that everybody can do. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. Anyway, so we don't even have to touch on that. But I would love to touch on cultural differences and then, which, honestly, again, I don't even think is that big of a thing depending on, obviously, like, who you are. But really, 45%? Family and friends never approve, or they never approve?
That's real. I mean, that
it's
is
so
a
real,
real
but like,
perception.
That's
yeah.
so crazy to me.
Yeah, that's real. And that means that out of those 45%, you've experienced that. Or a conversation has been had with family or around family, or somebody in the family dated interracial, and it was the talk of the family. And so that's how you speak. Like, you can't speak on that and answer that unless you've seen it or you directly experienced it.
Or they, like you know. Like,
Yeah.
obviously someone has to have said something in your life, whether it was a family member or a friend, that, like, you know that they would not approve, or they'd feel some type of way about you dating someone. And you know what? I hate to say it, sorry, I didn't mean to, I think you were about to have a thought, but I've actually, like I said, this is something, like, new for me. When I moved here to, like, the typical South, I call it, of Georgia, I actually did have people that said, or they kind of, like, made comments before, and I was surprised. I was like, wait, what? And they're like, I don't have any issue with it, but, like, if I go bring, a black man home to my family, like, my parents wouldn't be okay with it. I'm like, don't you guys go to church all the time, like, every Sunday? Like, your parents are the ones that, are very religious and blah, blah, blah. Like,
I literally, that don't matter.
No, that's what I'm saying. I've literally said this to their face, and they're like...
The devil knows the Bible better than everybody.
That's what I'm saying. Well, they literally were like...
still the devil.
Yeah, and they're like, and they're like, but if I don't want to lose, like, my relationship with my parents, I just don't really go into it, whatever. And I'm like, hold on, rewind. Like, does that make any sense to anybody? Like, I'm just kind of like, again, like, there's, like, a whole double standard. I'm not saying everyone's perfect, but, like, don't sit here and Bible thump me that you go to church every Sunday and that you're, doing all this volunteer work and stuff all the time and you have no racial issues with anybody or whatever, but then if your daughter was to bring a black man home, you wouldn't be okay with it?
You know what I'm saying? And that's
That
going back to
just tells
something
me
I
that
remember
that's
my
not-
old pastor
yeah.
saying, like, a lot of people, the word gets to the brain and they understand it, but a lot of people, the word don't really ever get to the heart. And that's where the change comes, and that's where you really start to understand. But back on the topic with it, going back, like I said, I was raised by 3 strong black women, and not one time ever do I remember them specifically, oh, you better not be with a white girl, I better not see you. They never said those things. My mom actually, in my first interracial couple, took the time to teach me how to navigate that in the best way. She was like, now, they may not express this to you, or it may not be something that they openly say to you, but because she's with you, her family could disown her one day and completely not want nothing to do with her. And it's nothing that you did wrong, but you're going to feel some type of way because the person that you care about and that you love is going through the worst thing that they could ever think of in their life, all because of a choice that they made and of who they chose to love. Mm-hmm. And my mom told me that, and I literally, those words verbatim, I will never forget it because it hit me like that. And I was young then, like my first relationship was like sophomore year of high school, so I was young. And so, again, my whole life, my mom would say little things about race, but because I wasn't seeing them every day, and again, I'm growing up in a different time than she did, I'm just like, okay, like, I'm brushing it off. But she said that, and it made sense. Like, it made a lot of sense, and I never thought that deep into it. But yes, there are, I mean, with that being said, there are a lot of families that really do view that very, very, like, deeply. You know what I'm saying? Like, it matters to them. And again, like I can be grayscaled. I can somewhat see a little bit of all sides, but to me that I just can't understand that. But coming from a family that when I was being brought up was very close knit, and then as I've gotten older, we've kind of separated and expanded out a little bit. Like to tear a family apart and to make somebody feel like they can't come home to what has been their home their whole life because of a decision that they made in life that really is not even like a life altering decision. Like it's just they decided to do life with someone that they love. That is a beautiful thing. And I feel like we shouldn't take the beauty out of that because of our own negative feelings and views.
Right.
And also, you don't have to be a certain color to have an opinion about a topic. Like, you're a human. You can formulate a thought.
Yeah.
You can have an opinion on whatever you want to have an opinion on. Should you voice them all? Probably not. Should you say them all in public? Probably not. But you are more than legal to voice an opinion. I just want to put that PSA
Welcome
out
to
there.
the United States of America.
Stop feeling like you can't speak on a certain topic because you ain't a certain color. That ain't got nothing to do with it. You are a human being, and all of us have human experiences. My experiences as a black man are the same experience that a white man could have had. That makes me no better and no different. It makes him no better and no different. This makes us people who are subject to life, which we all are. Next topic.
Next topic. I agree. But yeah, so that's... And also for me to round that up, do better. Anyway, that's all I have to say on that one. But basically, I kind of wanted to get into a little bit, like, for the cultural differences. I don't really think, for me, it would make them too hard. And the reason I say that is because, I mean, yes, I'm white, but I'm Polish. So a lot of my traditions or, like, a lot of my cultural kind of differences might come from literally just holidays, honestly. Like, that's mostly really it. Of like cultural traditions or whatever that I have. It's like I have a lot of Polish or Polish American, probably I should better say, traditions that I told you while we were dating, told Trey while we were dating, that I wanted to carry on. And, you know, in the future, if we have kids or, you know, whatever, like I was like, these are traditions these are like must-haves for me. Like everyone kind of has something, I think sometimes that it's like, this is not a argument or even a compromise in a way, you know what I'm saying? And like I'm very much willing to compromise on a lot, but there were some things I was like, especially when it came to my Polish traditions, I was like, this is we can maybe try and compromise a little bit, but these are my traditions and this is like a not arguable thing. Like this is something I will be doing, so you can either do with me or like I'm still doing it on my own. You know what I'm saying? And so I have some of those that we did, but thankfully, and I think this is also why, you know, I picked the partner I did, is that you really embraced them. You know, Trey really embraced my kind of traditions that I had that I were like, these are my ultimatum almost, you know, ultimatum type traditions. And they're not even that big. It's sort of just like on holidays, like I want certain food or like I have certain things that I wanted to do or like St. Nick comes on December 6th, like those kind of things. You know what I'm saying? It's not like anything big, you know what I'm saying? It's not like we're, I don't know, doing some crazy shit or something. Right. But like, I'm just gonna say, like, you know what I'm saying? But he very much embraced them, and I think you actually, and I can say this, like, enjoy them and have fun with them, and even like, especially the Polish food. You know, the Polish food you guys you love, so.
Heck yeah. And I think even too, going back to what we were saying, like, episode 1, it's about getting to know your partner. I think if you really love the person that you're with, you really care about them, what's wrong? There's nothing wrong. I mean, what goes along with that is learning about their culture and getting to know their family and things that they value. Especially when you go to talk about doing life long term, that's something that you're going to come to. And you very much need to have those conversations. And both sides need to listen to the other side and listen to understand.
Right.
And the only way that you can understand cultural significance is by putting yourself in the culture and experiencing it. And being open to that.
Yes.
And that's very much what I did. I loved her so much that by right, I loved her culture and where she came from. And because those things are what helped mold her into the person that she is. Those weren't the only things that made her who she were, but they helped mold her into who she was. Yeah. So if I'm going to learn this person and I'm going to love this person unconditionally, then I need to learn what all comes with them. All the leaps and bounds, the good, the bad, the ugly. Are they non-negotiables? Are they things that I feel like we can grow from or learn from or that can get better with experience? Or do I think that she's always going to be that way? You know, so is this important for you in a couple, in a relationship, to embrace your partner's culture if it is
Right.
opposite of your own. And
And
if
you
that
even
is
have to
something
too.
that you cannot do, that is not a relationship that maybe you should pursue.
Right. I was saying he even has some too that like obviously just kind of just say black culture. I think that would sum it up. You know what I'm saying? Just saying things that you do or
Yeah,
you
like
and your
American
family do.
black culture.
Yeah, like an American black culture. You know what I mean? Like that his family does that I've thoroughly enjoyed. Yeah. And so like it's just really like, are you willing to embrace those other cultures or not? You know what I'm saying? And I will also actually kind of touch on a little bit that, you know, my dad doesn't feel any kind of way or whatever, but there actually are a lot of cultures, including Polish people or in the kind of Polish community, that they want you to date within not just like your race, because they don't really care about that. They want you to date within your nationality or your culture. So
And culturally, that's mostly like bloodline.
yeah, and it's literally just because of that. So I mean, I know that there are cultures out there, and I would rather actually say nationalities out there that kind of have that like stipulation or whatever. And I think that's where a lot of sometimes people also get a little bit too. And it's not even a race thing; it's literally a nationality thing. I do understand that that is a thing, but even then, I'm like, I think like we can do a little bit better on that, especially being where we're at, like especially the United States of America, when it's like we are a celebration of all of them.
Yeah,
So,
you should be open-minded.
Yeah, and I think it's wonderful because not only do we get my traditions, but I also get his traditions, and vice versa. Like not only do you get yours, but now you get mine.
And,
so we have more to celebrate.
And imagine,
more to eat.
imagine too, because we've aligned culturally on those things. Like, and now I'm talking because we are a married couple. I don't have a ring on right now, but imagine how much fun our kids.
Wow! We're doing a whole podcast as a married couple, and this man doesn't have his ring.
All right, fam, hold up.
I'm sorry, I had to interrupt
I'm
for
gonna let
that
you finish.
one.
I'm gonna let you finish, but
That's all I wanted to say was wow.
Ways, you got my last name. That is the best ring and the most permanent thing you can have. You know, no, it's fine. But
No, I'm playing those
yes, I do love you. I'm so sorry. I took it off after work. I forgot to put it back on. But anyway, another reason why it was so easy for me to embrace it and why now, like as we go on and like continue our relationship, I go even deeper into the culture. Is imagine how much fun our kids' lives are going to be, being able to experience both sides of the culture. Like I kind of grew up, and again, I say like Black American culture. I kind of grew up because. And I feel like there's other, you know, African Americans out there or Black people out there that can relate to this. Like, it almost feels like it's kind of hard to determine like what is your culture. Like to me, like I was raised eating a certain type of food. That's just the food that we ate. That's just how my grandma cooked, and we was gonna eat whatever she cooked, and it was always good. Like, and that was soul food. Soul food was always a thing. But I didn't view that, and I was never taught that as like this is a cultural.
I think it's also
aspect of, you know what I'm saying? Like I never once heard them say, this is our culture.
Black
you know,
culture.
this is
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If anything, I heard my grandmother speak more to us being part Native American growing up, in which if you saw my grandmother and you looked at her, you could tell.
Yeah.
Me, I have a different father, and not, you know, we're not all 100% strong bloodlines out here. But because of that, like meeting her and then we have these Polish traditions. That's the first time in my life that I really thought like, what tradition we got? That's the tradition, or is that the shit that we did? Like, you know, like that's how I view it. Like,
it's something that you do all the time, or something that you do repeatedly. You know.
Okay, so maybe maybe we just didn't put a big emphasis on it. Like, but Christmases were even different, and I think too, like a lot of that goes into like they say when you get married and you don't turn your back on your family, but your immediate family, like your household, becomes the most important family to you, especially when you have kids. So I feel like my mom, a lot of the times, because she was raised a certain way and it was kind of strict back in those times, it kind of had to be. As she grew up, she wanted to create her own traditions with us and do her own thing. Yeah. So I think within that, of course, we always went around grandma. Everybody was at grandma's house for every holiday, especially when I was growing up. But at home, we even moved way differently than we would ever move at my grandmother's house or around my grandmother. So I think, too, that maybe had changed over time. And that's in everybody's life. I mean, I feel like everybody keeps family traditions that they love. They throw the ones that they don't really like away if they didn't agree with it, or if it's just something their parents made them do. And you just kind of pick and choose what you want to keep and what you don't want to keep. And I think that's probably like the best thing for you, especially for your couple, because you don't have to be exactly like your parents were when they were parents, or exactly the same type of couple that they were, like, and still be a good couple, a solid couple, and a great family. Mm-hmm. So
embrace those traditions. That's all I'm saying.
Embrace the traditions.
Like, honestly, cultural differences really don't come in unless it's like a very big pressure from like usually the parents or the extended family or some kind. And again, usually I feel like if the pressure is really that bad, either there's a race problem or it's a nationality thing. Usually, like, so that kind of goes back to like, I hate to say like breeding because that just sounds so many centuries ago. Like, say the word breeding in terms of people, that just sounds weird.
Making babies.
Yes. Well, but you know what I'm saying? But like, it's that, like you said, that bloodline of like, well, you know, we want Polish with Polish or Asian with Asian, depending on what subculture and, you know, that kind of thing. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, or even Hispanic and Hispanic. Like, it's not just, you know, obviously, like, a lot of cultures are actually like that.
Yeah.
But in the United States, get over it. Anyway, that's all I gotta say.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how I feel about that. Now, I would love to get into maybe some tips for those that are possibly in interracial relationships or are talking to someone maybe, or gosh, you know, you might get into one.
Yeah.
My first tip I'm gonna say is, unfortunately, sadly, there, like, as we've said in this episode already, there are gonna be people, and honestly, sometimes they're the people that you least expect. And even maybe people that are close to you that might not agree with you being in that relationship. So when you're going into an interracial relationship of some kind, or even talking to someone and thinking about, you know, starting something really great with them because you love this person, or you're growing a love for this person, you know, just don't be afraid. Well, I mean, it's one thing to be afraid, but it's another to just know, kind of have an expectation, sadly, that some people just, and again, some people that you, the least person, you know, you would expect, just know that someone might not really agree with you. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, you can't do anything. I mean, you can maybe have a conversation. I would highly recommend having a conversation with the person, you know, trying to figure out like where that came from, that kind of judgment came from, of not being able to, or that for them not to approve of a interracial relationship. But just don't be, you know, unfortunately, don't be surprised if the conversation doesn't end well, or if they just don't come around, because that's just unfortunately how society is, and that's just where we're at. So that's my first tip. With that, though, also don't be afraid to address that fear or hesitation that you have. For me, I mean, for me personally, it was easy because say it to my face, or I'll put you in your place. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you have something to say to me about my relationship and it has nothing to do with you, say it to my face, and then I'll gladly just give it right back at you, put it in your face, and tell you, okay, well, you're wrong, and you're done. No, but
I'm gonna hit you with that. Now let me holler at you.
Right, yeah.
And that's a different tone. That means something completely different.
Let me tagline.
Let me talk to you now. You ready to listen? Are you sure? Because are you? Oh, never mind. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm gonna tagline that. I'm gonna say it to my face, and I'll put you in your place, like, gladly. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't mess with that. You know what I mean? I just don't. But for those that might have not be as, I say, like, confrontational. I'm not like a mean person, I promise. Like, I try not to be. But, like, not as confrontational or as bold to just be like, well, you're, you know, that's rude as hell, like, to someone. You know, it's okay to still not be that kind of person, but still address that fear or hesitation of like, well, if you really love someone, don't let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game. If my girls, you know, you know me, you know me. Some of y'all are gonna get that quote, but you know what I'm saying? Like, don't let something like hold you back. Cute. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that was cute. Was it not? Okay.
I'm gonna let you live. It was cute. I'm gonna let you live.
Literally. I can't wait to see the comments after this. Anyway, but you know, say don't let something keep you from a really great love. I mean, this is like, Trey, you are the love of my life. We've gone over this. We know this, and I know. Anyway, enough of the sappy sap for me though. But he is the love of my life, and it's not because of the superficial stuff. I mean, we really don't make that face. We really got to know each other on a very deep level, and we really got to get to a deep understanding of each other. And I think actually not most of that, but about half of that was actually because we were trying to understand each other, different cultural differences even. And I'm not talking about just because I'm white and you're black and I'm Polish and you're just, you know, Black American, like, culture. Like, I'm talking even from, like, I grew up in Central Florida and you grew up in Atlanta. Those are two totally different places to grow up. You know what I'm saying? Like, but we really got a deep understanding of each other, partially due to that too. And it's like, how do I put this? I wouldn't want to have to cut off anyone in my life, like, especially that mattered to me or was important. But would I have for you? Probably, yeah, 100%. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, I'm not going to let that fear or hesitation keep me from my, like, true love soulmate person in my life. You know what I mean? Like, this is the person I want to do life with. And like, I mean, even during the day at work, I'm like texting him like, I miss you. I hope your day's going well. You know, like, cause that's my person. You know. So anyway, that's all I was gonna say about that. Do you have any tips or anything for any interracial?
My main points aren't really gonna focus on necessarily tips for the couple, but to me, this is just kind of monikers I've had to like give myself to live by a little bit in certain situations. And so the first thing I would say is be unapologetically yourself. If you are unapologetically yourself, and you're being who you were made to be, and you're being honest, you're being real with the person that you're with, I don't care who look at you crazy. Give them something to look at. Give them something to watch. Give them something to talk about. Because at the end of the day, if you're so concerned with who I'm with, how we talk to each other, how we move, what it looks like, oh, well, really behind closed doors, they probably... If you're so caught up in that, your own life must be boring as heck and miserable. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry if seeing us happy or seeing people happy in general, not even just talking about us as a couple, but seeing others being happy with each other, if that bothers you so much, I'm so sorry for you. And I'm praying for you. I'm praying for you. And I will have a conversation with you. We can talk about it. Maybe you need to get some things off your chest and need somebody to enlighten you on a couple things. I don't mind being that person. But at the end of the day, like, walk your mile, even if you got to walk it alone. Yeah. Even if it's against family.
Stay true to you.
Sometimes you have to put some family to the wayside. I'm a big family person. Yeah. I love my family to death, and there's nothing I would do for them. But at the end of the day, only one person can live my life. When Judgment Day comes, I have to look back on my life and say, I am happy with the life that I chose to live. I'm happy with the people I met, and I'm happy with the decisions that I made. So you have to live with your decision. Nobody got to love your partner but you. So don't worry about if mama and daddy love them or not. You can still be respectful and honor thy mother and thy father and tell them to hop off. You know what I'm saying? There's a way to do that. And it may feel lonely at first, but you're not alone. You have somebody that loves you unconditionally for who you are and that is willing to take that walk with you regardless, come hell or high water, like regardless of anything. And that's what I would say I would do for my partner. Like, luckily, we are blessed in our family situations and our livelihood and our cultures to not have to cut off family or anything like that for us to be together. And I wish that for everybody in their situation. I know that not everybody has that simple and that easy of a situation. So I do understand that we are blessed in that.
All right, y'all. That is a wrap on today's episode about interracial dating. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. We know it was a little bit longer, but honestly, I hope you guys really got something good out of this. But either way, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Keep it nice and short and sweet. For those of you that made it this far, thank you so much for listening. To those that are new and made it this far, thank you so much for listening. As a reminder, please go ahead and if you liked this, support us. Go like, follow, subscribe, turn on notifications on all of our socials and wherever you are listening. If you're looking for us, our handle is at letmehollaatyou.podcast on everything, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all of it. And we are literally on all of your favorite podcast channels, including Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, all of that good jazz, and I think I already said YouTube. So yeah, I got everything covered. But yeah, that's it, guys. So thank you so much for being here, whether you're listening or watching, and we'll catch you next time on Let Me Holla at You.
Love, Holla Ways.